We have data centers to be powered by human brain cells, man. The Chinese hacked the Federal Reserve and more. It's amazing. And Meta to pay $18 billion. This is the foundation. Current events for August 27th, 2026. I am Sot L, Seeker of Truth L, Speaker of Truth L. And we're gonna do a dance and jump right into this because wow. Wow. Make sure you check out welcome to thefoundation.com. Sign up for the email list. I will say that, we have a promotion going on. I'll talk more about that towards the end of the video, but, pay attention. Today, silver, $69.40. It's trading sideways. We have some consolidation going on here. Is it going to retest and move above the 200-day moving average? That's the question. Gold has already done that. Generally, silver is going to follow gold, be just a little behind schedule, but generally that's what happens. Is there going to be a breakout? We don't know. Dollar cost average though, $25, $50, $100, whatever you can afford. Every 2 weeks, every month, go buy some silver. Trust me, you will thank me later. Shanghai Eastern spot price $78.33 for silver, $69.42 for silver in the Western spot price. That is a delta that is widening. There were some reports that China halted all futures trading with silver, closed positions, closed margin accounts. I couldn't really find anything on that I thought was an official source. Took me a minute to come up with that, didn't it? But, definitely wanted to speak on that. We have things moving. Things are changing. Speaking of things changing, Iran attacks another commercial ship in Strait of Hormuz as Trump sends new warship to the Middle East. Apparently, all of the mines were gone. The strait was open, but it is not. A second commercial oil tanker was struck in the Strait of Hormuz on Wednesday. That is today, amid talks between Oman and Iran to impose a toll in the crucial waterway. This is I think we're looking at about 6 months that this war has been going on between the United States and Israel and Iran. It was supposed to be like a few days, and then it was going to be a couple weeks. I don't know, but check this out. Global oil shipments depend on major choke points. So not only do you have the Strait of Hormuz, and there's a lot of, crude going through there. 20.9 million barrels a day, but you also have the Strait of Malacca, 23.7 million barrels a day. The Cape of Good Hope with 6 million. The Bab el Mandeb, 8.6 million. You have the Suez Canal and the Sumed Pipeline, the Danish Straits, the Turkish Straits, and the Panama Canal. So these are all choke points. These are all potential areas that can be contested, come under fire. I don't know, man. I've never been in the military, man. They wouldn't let me go because of I had asthma back then, and they were like, the recruiter was like, I told him I was flat foot. He was like, "You're good," and I said, "I have asthma." He said, "You're done dealing." I'll never forget it. It was so matter of fact. Shout out to all the people in the armed services, man. I feel like y'all are different than these average Joes and Janes walking around all soft and stuff. I really appreciate service members, especially in conversations, man. They're no nonsense. I'm pretty much no nonsense as well. Moving forward, mortgage rates rise, bringing the average rate of a 30-year home loan to where it was 4 weeks ago. Back up. It's back up. Mortgage rates ticked higher this week, nudging the average long-term U.S. home loan rate closer to its recent high for the year. The benchmark 30-year fixed rate mortgage rate edged up to 6.66%. That's not a good number, is it? 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. From 6.65% last week, mortgage buyer Freddie Mac said Thursday. 1 year ago, the average rate was 6.56%. Higher mortgage rates can add hundreds of dollars a month in costs for borrowers, limiting home buyers' purchasing power. As rates rise, they can lead prospective home shoppers to delay buying a home. One reason U.S. home sales remain in a rut this year. Borrowing costs on 15-year fixed rate mortgages, often sought by borrowers refinancing a home loan, also rose this week. The average rate increased to 5.98% from 5.95% last week. A year ago, it was 5.69%. So it's an increase, a steady incline in rates, in inflation, in all of these things. Mortgage rates are influenced by several factors, including inflation, broader policy rate decisions from the Federal Reserve, and expectations from bond market investors for the economy. They generally follow the trajectory of the 10-year Treasury. I like how that rhymed. Yield for which lenders use as a guide to pricing home loans. Both mortgage rates and the bond market have been mostly rising this year due to the U.S. war with Iran. Israel's in there too, which has fueled expectations for hotter inflation as crude oil prices soared. Long-term bond yields remain steeper than they were before the conflict began in late February, helping drive mortgage rates higher. Man, it's all bad. Speaking of bad, tariffs will cost U.S. households over $1,000 a year. Yale Budget Lab says United States tariffs will cost the typical American household more than $1,000 per year. The nonpartisan Yale Budget Lab found in an estimate released yesterday. The forecast arrives amid a flurry of fresh levies imposed on Canada. I used to say Canada. There was a Canadian person who kind of dress me down for saying Canada. Sometimes I slip and say Canadian Canadian products after collapse in trade negotiations over the weekend. I mean, no disrespect. I just like the way it sounds. Same thing with Arkansas. From what I understand, if you say Arkansas in Arkansas, there's some sort of charge that can be levied. I'm not sure. A round of 50% U.S. tariffs on dozens of Canadian goods worth $20 billion took effect Saturday, followed by a measure unveiled on Monday that will double levies on Canadian cars and auto parts in January. The new tariffs on Canadian goods accounted for about $30 extra per household per year, the Yale Budget Lab said. Canada, get up out of here. Get up out of here. We don't like this. Canada on Tuesday announced levies of its own to take effect September 8th that would match the value of goods targeted by U.S. tariffs. Man, this dude, it just seems like this guy wants to fight everybody. I am almost positive that when he was first running to be the president, he said there would be lower taxes and no new wars. He said there would be lower inflation, that he would fix the inflation. He said a lot of things. Politicians say a lot of things. They definitely do. I hope everyone that voted for that guy is getting what they want. NFL ends the Pro Bowl game, but players will still be honored as Pro Bowlers. I'm not really familiar with football. My father used to watch it all the time, which kind of jaded me because I wanted to go outside. I wanted to do things. We live in a neighborhood where he wouldn't let me go outside by myself. So, football, if he was watching football, that meant I was chilling and had to figure out something to do for like 6-7 hours, man. So I don't really follow football. My brother does. It's weird. He got the bug. I did not. But the Pro Bowl is out of here. It was announced today, ending an exhibition of the league's top players that was held in some form almost every year since 1951. The game wasn't played in 2021 because of the pandemic, but that was the only pause in the postseason event. Quote, "It's okay to be the first league to walk away from a competitive all-star game," end quote. NFL Executive Vice President Peter O'Reilly said at the owners' meeting in Atlanta, the league said 88 players will still be named as Pro Bowlers and honored in Los Angeles after the season. Several flag football events also will take place at that time. Quote, "The Pro Bowl has always been about recognizing the players who distinguish themselves as the very best in the NFL. A Pro Bowl selection will return to its original purpose, honoring the best of the best. We want that distinction to carry even greater meaning for the players, their families, their clubs, and our fans, end quote. O'Reilly said the decision was, quote, a shift from the game to the honor, end quote. Troy Vincent, the league's executive vice president of football operations, said he heard from players that they, quote, don't want competitive play, quote, or sorry, end quote, after the playoffs. Quote, you come off the championship games and the viewers see the physicality of the game and you try to replicate that. Frankly, it just doesn't sit well. This isn't a good representation, end quote, Vincent said. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Leave a comment. I'd like to know. Definitely would. U.S. says Chinese hackers broke into the Justice Department, NASA, the Federal Reserve, and the Senate. I told you it was more. Told you it was more. I told you. An affidavit identified. I'm sorry, hold on. I jumped ahead. The U.S. said today it had disrupted a Chinese hacking operation responsible for break-ins and attempts on the Justice Department, NASA, the Federal Reserve, and the Senate, and other sensitive government agencies. The IRS, hack them out of here, hack them down, hack them all the way down. The feds, were they DEA, ICE? They said other government agencies. In a statement, the Justice Department said it had seized domains used by two hacking platforms dubbed QScan and QT Router, which it said had been used as part of the campaign. An affidavit identified the U.S. Department of Energy, Department of Health and Human Services, the National Institutes of Health, and four unnamed companies in the U.S. and South Korea as being among the hackers' victims. A spokesperson for the Chinese embassy in Washington said in an email that while they were not familiar with the specifics mentioned in the DOJ statement, the quote, Chinese government firmly opposes and combats all forms of cyber attacks in accordance with the law, end quote. The United States does the same thing. They don't hack, do they? I mean, if you're hacking and you're saying you're not hacking, and the people that you're hacking that you say you're not hacking, they start hacking, do you think they're gonna acknowledge and be accountable for the fact that they're hacking while you're not being it's one of those games. It's one of those games. The U.S. uses cybersecurity issues to, quote, smear or discredit China. The spokesperson said in China, quote, opposes the U.S. overstretching the concept of national security and using it as a pretext to impose discriminatory restrictions on Chinese companies and will firmly safeguard the legitimate rights and interests of Chinese companies, end quote. The Justice Department said the platforms were run by a China-based firm, the Nanjing Xinjue Network, technology company, whose clients, it said, included China's civilian intelligence agency, the Ministry of State Security, and its military, the People's Liberation Army. Nanjing Xinjue did not immediately respond to a request for comment outside normal business hours. Hack attempts started in 2018. The affidavit said the hackers used tools that they developed to compromise critical infrastructure and other sensitive networks in the U.S. and worldwide since at least 2018. We talking 8 years, man. That's wild. The affidavit said that not all their attempts to gain access were successful. The hackers unsuccessfully attempted to gain access to NASA networks in August 2019 by targeting a virtual private network vulnerability. In September 2024, the hackers carried out intrusions at 3 unnamed Energy Department laboratories, the NIH, an unnamed HHS agency, and a U.S. security device manufacturer, according to the affidavit. A joint security advisory issued by the FBI, NSA, and U.S. Cyber Command's Cyber National Mission Force detailed multiple hacking efforts over the years. These included successful data theft from unnamed defense contractors, financial institutions, and universities in May 2024. The hackers also scanned for vulnerabilities and made unsuccessful attempts to access networks on the U.S. Senate and the U.S. hospital. And a U.S. hospital in March 2026. That was recent. NASA spokesperson said the agency does not comment on specific incidents, and the Department of Health and Human Services referred questions to the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice did not respond to requests for additional detail. Chinese leak hacking campaigns have compromised a string of sensitive U.S. government and private networks in recent years. In March, the FBI notified Congress that hackers had penetrated certain agency networks related to people under FBI investigation, with public reporting later attributing the compromise to China. Chinese linked hackers have also been tied to a compromise of certain U.S. House of Representatives committee networks, as well as multiple major telecommunications companies in recent years. FBI put out a recommendation that Americans use encrypted apps for communications, to stop using your actual your straight service provider. Wow. So to use like Signal, they specifically said Signal. They use encrypted. So, and to use calls, to make your calls through encrypted apps, to not use your actual phone in your mobile. We reported on that, I think, oh man, it's close to a year ago. It's a real thing. Experts who follow Chinese cyber activity say private contractors routinely carry out high-profile intrusions on behalf of various Chinese government agencies. Quote, over the last decade, the number of companies offering niche offensive service has exploded, end quote, said Dakota Carey, a China analyst with cybersecurity company Sentinel One. And this isn't going to stop. It's just going to proliferate more and more. It's just going to get more ubiquitous. We don't even understand. Speaking of, Ring hopes new encryption tech will ease surveillance fears around its home security cameras. They have to do something. Their sales are being affected. Let's just say that many Americans feel growing unease about the proliferation of cameras in people's hands, on homes and businesses and public spaces for police use, that seem to be capturing our every move, sparking backlash, protests, and users ditching or destroying devices. So they're ditching the Ring cameras, destroying the Flock cameras. Now, Ring, one of the largest home security camera providers in the United States, is rolling out a new encryption technology that it hopes will give customers more confidence about the privacy of their cameras and footage. It is the latest move by security company. Wow. Security camera company to address consumers' privacy and surveillance fears. Earlier this month, law enforcement technology firm Flock introduced new police auditing and accountability controls. I don't think it's going to work, but they don't care. They're not going to stop this. They're just going to try to make people feel better about what they're doing, which is mass surveillance. Ring's update effectively means customers don't have to worry about any third parties, including law enforcement and Amazon itself, viewing their home security footage without their consent, according to the Amazon-owned company. That was already Ring's policy, but the new form of encryption reinforces that on a technical level. The technology is called Take, an acronym for throw away the key. When stored in the cloud, a user's video will be kept in what Ring says is effectively a secure digital vault to which only users has the key. Yeah, okay. Whatever, man. The company says it will only get the virtual key to run features like video search for a limited time with the customer's approval, and then will, quote, throw away the key, end quote. So Ring doesn't have ongoing access to the videos. Do you believe it? I don't believe it. Let's move forward. Meta, $18 billion multi-state settlement. They're gonna change some stuff. That's a lot of finance. So they're gonna change some things. I read that they're gonna do a blackout like after a certain time. If you're a certain age, if you're under, I don't know, if you're like 16 or under or whatever, after a certain time at night, you won't be able to access your account. And then I believe they're gonna institute time limits. So they're only gonna let children access Meta for a certain amount of time, and then after that time has expired, there will be a time limit to where they're not able to access their social media until that time limit expires. This is going to change some stuff. Meta today agreed to make sweeping changes to its platforms as part of an $18 billion settlement with dozens of states over claims its platform contributed to a youth mental health crisis. Regulators and online safety advocates called it a watershed moment, and both Meta and state attorneys general called on TikTok and YouTube to make similar changes. But whether the settlement fundamentally alters the business of one of the world's most powerful tech giants remains an open question. The $18 billion agreement is a drop in the bucket for the nearly $1.5 trillion company, which is Meta, and a fraction of what states were seeking at trial. Although Meta still faces hundreds of similar cases, the litigation so far has revealed internal documents suggesting that Meta knew of the risks its platforms posed to young people, despite public statements about its commitments to safety. Yeah. Still, some online safety advocates say they wish the deal went further to upend Meta's core ad-based business model, and many are now calling on Congress to codify the changes in industry-wide federal legislation. What is clear, Meta will no longer be able to grade its own homework on youth safety. An independent auditor will review its implementation of the required changes, a crucial step that parents and advocates have been demanding for years. I I don't know. I don't know. I think they'll figure out another way. But that is good news. It's good news. Researchers discover additional backdoors in Chinese-made ZBT link routers. Um, I don't know if you recall, a few months ago we did talk about how there was a ban on Chinese routers. Actually, I think that video, it did really well. It did better than any of the recent videos we've done. Not sure why. I think YouTube promoted it, but this is in addition. More than a dozen models of Chinese-made ZBT link routers ship with at least two backdoors that could allow for invasive remote access akin to surveillance, according to new findings from cybersecurity firm Volncheck. Volncheck? The two new backdoors, dubbed Dark Lantern and Speaking Stone, preceded an earlier discovered backdoor called Endless Doors on certain models of ZBT link routers. The two new backdoors allow for easy access to information about the network on which affected routers are installed, as well as, in the case of Speaking Stone, potentially for the redirection of network traffic, representing a significant security risk, Volenchek said in a blog post detailing the new findings. The previously unreported findings, they didn't even talk about this, come weeks after the same firm discovered and disclosed Endless Doors, a backdoor present in more than 20 ZBT link routers that would have allowed anyone with access to certain domains to collect data from the routers and potentially connect to other devices on the same network. One day after Volncheck's disclosures, ZBT Link suspended sales of the routers and pulled affected software offline, and said the backdoor was actually a remote access support function and was never abused for malicious purposes. Do you believe them? It was for remote access support. I don't know how many routers need remote access support. And I understand that there's a lot of people who are unfamiliar with routers and their software and their firmware and, their settings and so on and so forth. I understand there's a lot of people unfamiliar with them. A lot. But documentation is really good. The step-by-step documentation, especially from, the manufacturers. And there are a lot of YouTube videos available with regards to networking that can be observed and studied. I don't, and remote support, never been okay with that. I think I've done remote support one time and it was back in the 2000s, man. But, these hacks, they're everywhere. They're ubiquitous. Speaking of ubiquitous, China's humanoid robots aren't smart enough to take your job yet. The kung fu routines and dances mask a fundamental problem. These robots are too slow and error prone for most industrial work. Do you think that China displayed their most advanced robots? Do you think that those were consumer grade robots that were, performing and running and things of that nature? Or do you think that those were the military robots that they put on? I don't think they put the military, the really technologically advanced. Why would you show your hand? Inside a training center in southern China, more than 100 humanoid robots stand in neat rows. A dozen human trainers wearing headsets guide some of them through simple tasks, sorting crates, packaging noodles, making coffee. The humanoids are slow and awkward. A novice trainer might get them to produce one usable movement in 300 attempts, an experienced trainer, 150. Robot maker UB Tech won an $18 million tender from the Guangxi regional government last October to supply the training facility with humanoids and related hardware. The mission to produce training data for so called embodied AI robots able to perceive, decide, and act in the physical world. The trainers use headsets to see from the robot's perspective and handheld controllers fitted with sensors to translate their own movements into the robot's action. Teaching humanoids to handle labor intensive work could one day meet an acute need. China's population is aging and shrinking, eroding a critical demographic advantage for its industrial base, a vast pool of workers. And China's military researchers have explored the potential uses of robotics and artificial intelligence in future weapon systems. Man, this is the disclosure right here. That's the disclosure. Teaching humanoids to handle labor intensive work could one day meet an acute need. That acute need, artificial intelligence and future weapon systems. The Liuzhou Center, which Reuters visited in April, aims to sell robot training data to factories. But three staffers acknowledged the subsidy-dependent project currently has no clear path to profitability, citing high operating costs and low prices for its data in the nascent technology. It's government-sponsored. The facility captures essential tension in China's humanoid push. Government funding and manufacturing investment are racing ahead of robots' ability to operate outside of choreographed demonstrations like kung fu routines, dances, and boxing matches that have made the machine's internet sensations. There will 100% be a consolidation sooner or later. It's just a matter of who and how ugly. They're saying the robot's IQ is too low. Let's look at how far they've gone in the past 10 years. This is not going to stop, and we are going to see more of this. I trust you're ready. And new data centers will be powered by human brain cells. I was appalled. You've heard of hardware, but have you heard of wetware? This is crazy. Last year, researchers at Australian biotech startup Cortical Labs showed off its CL1, the world's first code deployable biological computer that's made up of 200,000 living human neurons. In February, the company showed off its progress, demonstrating how the neurons could be taught how to play the seminal video game Doom, a far more complex and impressive showing than much earlier attempts to have them play Pong in 2022. Now, Cortical Labs is ready to scale up the operation. As Bloomberg reports, the company says it's working on, quote, biological data centers, end quote, in Melbourne, Australia, and Singapore. Simply put, instead of relying on NVIDIA chips like AI companies, Cortical Labs is planning to outfit its futuristic facilities with racks of CL1 biological computers powered by many more human brain cells instead. Where do they get the brain cells? Are those brain cells going to have echoes of its previous owner? Oh, man. The company refers to its approach as, quote, wetware, end quote, an unsettling new take on software and hardware terminology. Simply put, the computers send electrical signals to neurons derived from human blood stem cells, man. The chips embedded within record the neurons' response as the output. So they're made from stem cells. Are we sure? They could say that, but then the company teamed up with Day One Data Centers to develop the two facilities. The Melbourne Data Center will house 120 CLI units, while Day One is planning to deploy, wow, I'm having a problem, as many as 1,000 units at the one in Singapore. Cortical Labs claims that relying on biological computers comes with a massive advantage over the silicon wafer counterparts. Future biological data centers will only, quote, consume a fraction of the power used by conventional AI processors, end quote. CEO Han Wang Chong told the publication that each CL1 node needs less power than a handheld calculator to run. That's orders of magnitude less power than a modern graphical processing unit requires. But plenty of questions remain. Most crucially, it's not clear what practical use the units have. The company has yet to show that its computers can even remotely keep up with the computational prowess. I don't know. I said multiple ways of the current generation of the top of the line data center chips. Nonetheless, if it does turn out to be a viable approach, it would make for an elegant response to the burgeoning environmental disaster that AI data centers are turning out to be. They've been shown to generate copious amounts of noise, consume staggering amounts of water, and even raise local electricity prices. So a data center moves in your area and your prices go up. That's diabolical. Currently, we are offering here at the foundation 50%, half off your one-time startup fee for Trustee training. You have to email me though, admin@welcometothefoundation.com, as well as if you opt for a gold or the platinum tier, your monthly will be the same as the silver monthly, which is $9.99. That is for limited time. We're doing this for 2 weeks. We got 13 days left. If you're interested, email me, admin@welcometothefoundation.com. I appreciate y'all checking out the current events. As always, enjoy yourself, take care of yourself. Make sure you say 10 things that you're thankful for before you go to sleep tonight and every night. It's very important. And I'll catch y'all tomorrow on current events. Peace, y'all.